You're listening to the Voice of Your Brand podcast. In today's episode, get ready for an incredible interview with the authors of the book, Chase You, Elizabeth Kendig and Monica Lawson, on unlocking your purpose through spirit guide communication. That's coming up next. Ready to go behind the scenes and learn what it really takes to stand out as the voice of your brand? I'm Katherine Beck, voice actor and voice coach. And after 20 years of being the voice of other brands, I'm here to show you how your voice is your most powerful tool to creating the impact, influence, and income you desire. The world is your global stage, so get ready to up-level your voice and your personal brand. This is the Voice of Your Brand podcast. All right, today is a very special podcast episode. I had the honor of interviewing two incredible women, Elizabeth Kendig and Monica Lawson, who co-authored the book Chase You. This is a book that I actually did the audiobook narration for at the end of last year. And Elizabeth and I connected over Instagram, and I was absolutely thrilled when both women said yes to having a conversation about the book on the podcast. Now, Elizabeth Kendig is the founder of HealersWanted.com. She's the host of the Healers podcast and most recently, the head of content at WellSet. Now, she has really dedicated her career to taking the weird out of the woo and making spiritual and holistic practices more accessible. She's also previously served as a magazine editor and editorial director for Fortune 500 companies. Both she and her work has appeared in magazines such as Allure, Glamour, InStyle, Martha Stewart Living, People Magazine, The Today Show, and so many more. And then we have Monica Lawson, who is a healer and a sought-after spiritual advisor who helps her clients all around the world to discover their purpose, connect with the other side, and co-create a life of joy. Monica has given readings to people of all different walks of life, from actors to movie producers to Grammy Award-winning singers and songwriters to Silicon Valley executives and fellow spiritual teachers. And her clients really range from a broad age range as well, from as young as 11 to as old as 80 and everything in between. And let me tell you that this conversation that I had with both Monica and Elizabeth about their book was so interesting on so many levels. I have been eagerly awaiting to share this with you. So let's just get straight into it and let's roll that interview. It's amazing how sometimes things come into your life at the right moments or when you're looking for a sign. And that's exactly what happened when I got an email from my agent, my voiceover agent, saying there is an audiobook. My first thought was, an audiobook. I am so not an audiobook voiceover person, because voiceover, we kind of have our own niche. Like there's things that you're known for. I was never an audiobook voiceover person.
Oh,
and
wow.
in fact, there was one particular place over here that kept calling me in to have me audition for audiobooks. And every time I wouldn't get it. And I think, just stop calling me in. Like, it's clearly not my thing. And then
It just wasn't the right one yet.
Just wasn't
That's
the
right.
right one. So I got yours and I read it and I thought, oh, this is interesting. This is actually one I wouldn't mind doing. And then when I got the call that I got it, I was like, cool. And then I got the manuscript, I got the book, and I started to read through it right before the first record. And at that time in my life, I was looking for a sign. I was at a real crossroads with my work and what I was doing. And I just felt like things had been very heavy for about a year and a half or so. And I was thinking, okay, is this time to pivot? Am I meant to pivot? Is this the evolution of what I'm meant to be doing? Or am I supposed to be doing what I'm doing now? Give me a sign. And I started to read the book and I went, this is the sign. And
I love that.
Surprised, but
Yeah.
we love it.
Mhm.
Was the book the sign, or were there signs along the way while reading it that reinforced the pivot or gave you the validation
Good
you
question.
were looking for?
Yes.
I am
Hello.
now the
Turning the
interviewer.
tables. I love
Only
it. No,
took
this is
about
great.
2 minutes.
Turning the tables. So it wasn't until I started to read the book once I got the job, and just, just sort of the beginning chapters where I thought, oh, this is very interesting that I'm getting this book during this period in my life where I'm at a real, like, I was in so much pain, like physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, like all the pains were all coming at me at once during that time. And so I was just really needing to make a choice. It's either one or the other, but I can't keep living in this limbo because it's really just, I'm suffering. So I actually got asked to fly to Melbourne to record the audiobook. I'm in Sydney. And that was really great because I felt like I had that time to just clear my head and really focus on the book. And I just remember sitting down in the voiceover studio, reading the pages, because I had only just casually looked through the beginning chapters and just skimmed. So I had a good feel of the book. But, I like to read things and let them come to me as I'm reading, experience it, and get the feelings as I'm reading. And I just remember there were moments where I would be reading and my eyes would just feel like they were going to explode out of my head, thinking, oh my gosh, this is something else. But I did do the 3 signs in 3 days before I went to Melbourne. So I asked for, give me a sign of a penny, because when my dad had passed away, he would leave pennies for my mom. And there was this one time about a year or so ago where I'm in Australia. Okay. So we're talking American pennies. It's not something you see over here. I was working on my laptop and I was standing because I had hurt my lower back, and I looked down at my feet and I saw a penny. And I thought, wow, where did that come from? So when I was thinking about a sign, I thought, okay, well, I'll ask for a penny. And the first sign I saw was a penny in a Facebook group that I was a part of. Somebody posted a penny that they saw. Then I was working with a client and it was on their American accent. And I've got, these words that I was having them recite to me, and I would give them feedback. And one of the words was, all of a sudden I heard penny. When I heard the second one, when I heard the second penny, I was like, whoa. Okay.
It's real.
It's real.
And it's so important that these examples are so perfect, because it doesn't have to be the thing. It doesn't have to be the object itself. It can be an email subject line, or it can be, a sign, a physical sign that has the object on it, or someone saying it, or it's in a song. I mean, all of those count. We get this question a lot. So they all count. And you got them really quickly too, it sounds like.
Well, so I was thinking, okay, well, the third, so it's got to be something different. And then again, I had flicked onto that Facebook group and I saw the penny again. And I thought, it can't be that. Like, it can't be the same sign twice, can it? Like, surely I'm missing something. And then I thought, well, maybe that's just how it's meant to be. And then I was listening to your interview, Elizabeth of Monica. And Monica, you had mentioned sometimes it can be those 2 signs. Like,
correct.
It doesn't have to be 3, right?
Right. And sometimes if we get 2 out of the 3, we might have missed one. But I caught myself missing them sometimes. And my husband will go, no, remember this? I'm like, oh, that's right. But yeah, it can be the same one twice for sure.
Right.
And the more that people do this, I mean, we encourage everyone to be skeptical in the beginning, because that not only tests the team and it builds trust and confidence in them when it actually happens. But I would say now, because I've been working with Monica for so long and doing this on a regular basis, sometimes 1 is enough for me. Like, if it hits me over the head, if I have a question, it's like done, message received. Like, I don't need 3. I rarely need 3 unless it's like a very emotionally charged situation where I don't want to believe it, or I'm not ready to see it, or you better really, really shout it for me. But yeah, you got it. You did it. And I love that your dad was probably part of that process too.
Yes. I had believed in, the angels and the spirit guides and all of that. I didn't really have a lot of information on it, but I did know that, and I do know that he does visit quite often. He makes his presence known in his very own unique way. So when I got that penny, I knew it was him for sure. But it's interesting that you say just one sign. Actually, right before we started this interview, so a half an hour before, I'm sitting and I'm setting up my podcast equipment, my microphone, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, this massive torrential rain starts pouring down. And I'm looking out the window because I literally just dropped off my son to school. There was no rain. And I sit down and all of a sudden it's torrential. So I went and I thought, okay, I've got to look up the sign. I'm about to talk to Monica and Elizabeth. Like, this
what does it mean?
And now the rain's gone, like not an ounce of rain in the sky. So it can just be one sign. It doesn't have to be three.
Well,
That's so true. And I actually had something like that. Sorry, Elizabeth.
Okay.
I actually had something like that happen as well. I think I might have been talking to Elizabeth at the time that it happened. We were just talking back and forth. And in my head, I think we were talking about the concept of the book or something. And I thought, oh, is it just connecting people to the other side? And it was sunny and there was a huge thunder. I mean, it scared me. I don't remember if we were talking to Elizabeth or if I told you about it, but it was just this huge thunder and lightning. And then it stopped. There was nothing else, no rain, no clouds, nothing. So that was pretty incredible too.
Wow.
Yeah, sometimes I think they're not even signs. It's the other side just validating whatever is happening in that moment. Sort of like the 11:11, or Monica and I will have, sometimes I wonder if it's just my old iPhone, but it happens to her too. We will have a call just drop between us and it will be in the middle of some conversation where we're trying to make a decision, or maybe we're talking about something and we're not being positive enough about it, or I don't know. And the call will just cut out. And I'm sure, Kathy, this has happened to you in podcasts too.
Mm-hmm.
Something will just not work with a guest. Like,
Yep.
It's not the day to record. It is not happening, whether it's technology or whatever. And I always just take that as like, okay, like, let this go, move along, schedule, and it's sort of just like I'm not going to say hand of God, but it feels like the other side is reaching down, like tap, tap, and so the three signs to me, because I'm still a student sometimes, so Monica can always correct me, are when you have a specific question. But the other side and loved ones who have passed, like your dad, like they just sometimes just like pop in, hang out, say hello, give you a pat on the back by, flying through the yard or something, or playing a song on the radio. It doesn't always have to be because you've asked for it. So I don't know if we've ever like categorized them that way, but that's how I think of the signs.
I love that.
Yeah.
Well, we've literally dived into a conversation and not even properly introduced both of you. I think maybe we should.
This is the best kind of podcast, right?
It's this kind of podcast, and it usually is when I'm podcasting, and I have a feeling it's the same for you, Elizabeth.
Yes.
So would you like to share a little bit, what I'm curious about, obviously who you are, but the relationship between the two of you is obviously, I'm guessing, Monica, not typically the relationship you have with most of your clients, right? Your relationship with Elizabeth has evolved into much more.
Absolutely. And I can honestly say, and I've shared this with Elizabeth, after our very first session, I hung up with her and I'm like, oh, there's something different with her. it was almost as if the other side said, pay attention. This is a soul connection. And you're right. I don't get that with everybody, but with Elizabeth, it was immediate.
Wow.
Which,
was it the same for you, Elizabeth?
I'm just sitting here beaming. Well, this is such a fantastic way for us to sort of introduce ourselves, because it is so much about our relationship, but also like where we both were in our own journeys, professionally and personally, when we met. And for me, I was in transition career-wise, relationship-wise, and I was sitting on a beach when an acquaintance who was also doing a lot of deep diving into the spiritual space and self-help, etc. She texted me and said, you have to book a session with Monica Lawson, and gave me her website or email. And so at that point, I mean, anytime someone would recommend someone to me, a healer, I said yes. And because that's, we're messengers for each other. So I took the recommendation, I ran with it, and Monica and I had our first session. And I had been working with holistic metaphysical practitioners for a number of years as a writer. And then I eventually started podcasting and interviewing, and then built a healing platform around all of those practitioners. But back then I was really a journalist. And so I went in very comfortable and very prepared for sort of an intuitive reading, and I'm going to get a tune up, and this might be a little different, but I've done this many times. I mean, I have had my palms read. I've gone to all extremes. And the biggest difference with Monica is that, well, two things. She came to our session with messages for me from the other side. It was not I'm going to ask you a question and you're going to answer it. It was, here are 21 things they want you to know or do. Of course, there's always homework. And in that first session, she said, I'm going to give you, they've given me three sort of, I think they were all objects for you to look for. So signs, right? We didn't have the same language then, or I didn't. Signs validating that they're with you, that they're around you, and that they're ready to work with you. So I wrote those down, and sure enough, within a week, I'd gotten Pepsi, Tootsie Rolls, and Jack and Jill. I will never forget those three signs, because this was my introduction. And so our relationship not only became spiritual advisor, mentor, and client, but teacher and student. And that was, at least 7 years ago. I always think it's 7. We're probably going on 8. So Monica does this with, I think she's worked with all of her clients as sort of a teacher and student, but I feel like I was probably the biggest guinea pig for learning and putting the lessons that are in our book, Chase You, into practice. And then, somewhere along the lines, we just became sisters. And that really took off when we decided to write this book together. I mean, the dynamic had to change, and I had to not feel insecure about writing a book with and for my mentor, because she is the expert. But she was, of course, really encouraging about that. So that's how we came to be. And now we talk almost every day.
Oh, yeah. I love that. And so who inspired who to think about the idea of a book then? Or was it just a mutual conversation that just happened naturally and organically as you talked every day?
Monica, okay, it was not on my radar whatsoever. As the writer, I never thought about writing. I mean, I had thought about writing books, but not this kind of book. And it definitely had not occurred to me to write a book with Monica, because again, like what am I doing writing a book about something that someone else is really is the expert. And so Monica, it really starts with her.
Yeah.
And then I will wrap it up for you if you want.
It's such a beautiful story. So the other side had been telling me probably 2 years to write a book. And I had no desire to write a book. And the way the other side works is they'll give us little hints and, let a couple weeks go by or months go by. And then if we're not listening, they'll, knock a little bit louder and then knock a little bit louder. Well, this time it was daily and it was almost hourly, just the urgency of writing a book. And so I told my husband that day, I said, I'm so frustrated. I don't know how to write a book. I wouldn't know the first place where to begin, what to look for. And he looked at me and he's like, hello, practice what you preach. And I thought, oh my God, you're so right. So that night, called the team in and I said, if you really, really want me to write this book, you have to send me somebody. And it has to be fast. And I want this writing process to be effortlessly, joyfully, peacefully, and it has to be somebody amazing. Did not tell Elizabeth about this. Like that wasn't something I was sharing. And so the next morning we were going out of town and I'm in the car and I get a text from Elizabeth and she says, do you have a minute? I said, yeah, of course. And so I'm talking to her and she starts off with, I had a dream. And so I was told I'm supposed to write a book for you or with you. I don't remember the exact words. And I said, hold on, Elizabeth. And I put on speakerphone and my husband's eyes got so big because they literally came to Elizabeth in a dream that night and said, this needs to happen. And we were both in shock. So Elizabeth, do you want to tell the dream or do you want me to tell the dream?
Yeah.
Okay. So it was really,
yeah. Oh, go ahead.
The dream was amazing. So I don't remember the sequence of it, but she was on a ranch and she was eating ribs. Was that correct? Or did somebody bring you ribs?
I will
ribs.
tell. This is Catherine,
you tell the dream
part. I will tell it.
I was just going to say my eyes are like bugging out of my head when you were saying that, Monica, as you were talking about your husband. I'm thinking, what? That is.
It gets even crazier.
Okay.
Even crazier.
Okay, so I don't know, Catherine, to me, there are dreams that feel like dreams on the subconscious level. They don't always make sense. And then there's sort of this like liminal space that's like a lucid dream that feels very real. Like it is you in your body. It is actually happening. Mm-hmm. And those feel different to me. They feel more like visions or I don't know, or a message. So that's how this was. And I was sitting at some big picnic table in what looked like Montana on a ranch. And I've got my laptop in front of me and there's papers everywhere and they're flying around and I'm writing something, I'm typing and I don't know what it is, but I look up and Monica is coming out of this beautiful log cabin and she's carrying a platter of barbecue ribs, which by the way, we both really love barbecue ribs.
Absolutely.
And I look back. So I was like, well, this is real. This is definitely real. And so I look back at my laptop in the dream and I can see that I'm writing a book for her or with her. I thought it was for her. Like, I'm going to ghostwrite it. Suddenly, the two of us are standing in another room and it's like a switchboard, computer, techie room. There are plugs and wires and tech everywhere. And this guy swivels around in his chair and he plugs something in the wall and the whole room lights up. It's like sparkly white lights everywhere. It's like a light bright is how I describe it in the book. And he says, and I'm a little sheepish to say this. This is me saying this. He says, this is what you're going to do for the world. You're going to turn on people's lights everywhere. Mm-hmm. So I shot up in bed. Now we're back in real time. I'm in the bed. It's funny that both of our husbands are part of this story too, by the way. And it's morning and my husband is sitting up next to me and he's on his phone and he's texting with his best friend who's having us over for dinner that night. And I say, what is he making us for dinner? And my husband says, ribs. oh, good Lord, we're writing a book. So yeah. So that was sort of that. And I was nervous to ask Monica, and but I did. And then honestly, and this is, I think, partly why we tell this story is not, because we don't have special powers. Well, Monica sort of does, but as soon as we accepted this challenge, and we did not know how we were going to do it, and she had obviously been resisting somewhat, and I have never written a book. And what's amazing is that, and not amazing because we did ask for help from the other side, is that all of the people we needed for this project, we call them the dream team, everyone sort of appeared before us and for us. I mean, it just, and it's not easy to get a book agent. It's not easy to get a publishing deal. It's not easy to find people within those organizations who believe in you and support you unequivocally, especially on a subject matter as sort of elusive and, hard to quantify as what we're talking about. And it all fell into place, and it was peaceful, and it was joyful, and it was easy. It was easy, including finding you. So, because Catherine, we did call you in. We said, okay, we're going to do an audiobook, and there's going to be a narrator, then bring us the perfect one. And that's that.
So when you were looking for a narrator, did you listen to the audition samples? Like, were you part of that process?
The Bolinas, who I believe did the audiobook.
Belinda, yep.
Belinda, I'm sorry. Bolinas is a beach town down the street from me, so forgive me. Belinda, we love you. They sent us those excerpts, and we were nervous. I mean, I would say Monica didn't want to narrate the book.
Nope. That was great book.
I thought, how is this gonna, I don't know how to narrate a book with this many different voices, and this is a job for a professional. And so they sent us you, and and we just trusted that your beautiful voice would reach people's ears. So thank you.
Oh, it was my pleasure.
Enough. Yeah.
I think one of the first things you say in the book is about your intuition getting stronger. And I had known that I had intuition, but I didn't know what it was until the past year. I have a business bestie, somebody who's, an online business owner like me, and she pivoted to becoming, I think she calls herself a transformation success coach, and she's a healer. And she also is very intuitive. And she said, what you do, you have this gift of intuition. Is it called Monica? Which one is it? I'm sure you know. And
is it so we can either hear, see? So were you feeling, what you're supposed to do?
Yeah.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I always just call it, because everybody struggles with the words. I always say you can either hear, see, feel, or know. So it sounds like you have,
Yeah. So I kind of just knew, when I got this book, that I was meant to get it. And I knew as I was reading the words how they needed to be said.
And I love that, because every step of the way of the book was sent to us. So we knew every person that had a hand in the book was definitely sent to us from the other side.
Wow.
Oh yeah. And
we didn't look for anybody.
No, we didn't. I had an old agent that I'd worked with on a TV show back in the day, and that we didn't end up doing. And I moved across the country, COVID happened, and she reached out to me on Facebook and said, hey, it's been forever. Do you want to chat? Want to catch up? And the first thing she said to me when I got on the phone with her was, do you have a book in you? And I thought, oh, shit. And because this is happening now. Now we have to do it. So yeah, sorry if I just explicited your podcast.
That's all right.
Old habits die hard. So yeah, but I especially appreciate that I didn't know that audiobooks are not what you normally gravitate towards or do. And that this was just, meant to be. And I'm curious if there were any parts in the book when you were reading that you had to read more than once or that didn't make sense to you when you were reading it.
Okay.
And either when you were reading it in print or when you were reading it like to yourself or when you were reading it out loud. Because I always feel like when you read out loud, it's like a test of whether it really clicks.
Yes. Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Totally.
Sometimes I have to read sentences multiple times when my husband and I will read like the newspaper to each other and I go, wait, what does that mean? What is this? And I have to go over it again and again. So I'm curious if that happens when you're recording.
I think it was an easy read and it was easy to digest and understand. The only thing is because it was new concepts, the idea of asking for a sign 3 times in 3 days, that I went back and read through again just to make sure I grasped the idea in doing it for myself. But I think also as the listener as well, somebody who's going through it for the first time, that's probably an area that they'll spend more time on. The part that really resonated with me was around that area where you start to explain it, Monica and Elizabeth, you talk about, I think one of the great examples in there is there was a boy or a young man who was deciding between 2 different schools, universities, which one to go to. Do you want to explain that?
Yeah, for sure. It's such a beautiful story. So this young man was trying to decide between 2 different schools. And so he asked for the signs and he had a dream one night and he dreamt that a bear was chasing him. He didn't really know what that meant. So he just held on to it. And then the next day, his aunt comes over and she talks about a bear. And then the third day, he goes to church because he's running a church camp for kids. And his godson had shown up in a bear costume. So what I really love about that story is you can really see how the signs can come in completely different ways. From a dream to somebody saying the word, sort of like what you got to experience with Penny, and then somebody showing up in a costume.
Love
and
that.
so he was able to decide that was clear.
That is a really good example because it's definitive. I get a lot of questions about yes or no questions. And I think Monica may be weighing in on this. I think those can be trickier for people because they're not sure if the sign means yes or no. Or, we're all a little biased. Sometimes we're hoping for the yes or we're hoping for the no. So it's more asking for, in this case, it was A or B. And the sign was really clear and definitive. So we love when people, especially in the beginning, start with something where there's not a lot of gray area in the answer.
Right. So that helps you when you're new to this to leaning into it and going, okay, these are the signs. And then you don't necessarily have to do the 3 signs. It's just looking for maybe one of those bigger signs that might come to you. Okay. So during that time, after I had read your book, I had won a trip to Sedona to do a mini mastermind with my online business coach. And it was just a very small group of us, I think 10 of us, never been to Sedona before, traveled on my own. And I was looking for signs of, again, like still, before I get to this first day in the mastermind, I need to know which path am I taking because I need to go into that mastermind with a clear question based on that next step. So I was really that was like the final moment for me. And in my head, there were a couple of things that I really wanted to see while I was in Sedona. One was snow because it was winter. Coming from Chicago and living in Sydney, I was like, gosh, wouldn't it be great if it snows? And it rarely ever snows in Sedona. Sure enough, day 2, it snows.
Wow.
So how did you use that as to help? It sounds like you were at this crossroads. So I'm curious.
Yeah.
Right. Were you leaning in one direction and the snow helped you go, trust this path that you are leaning toward, that you actually want to do, even though it's scarier or harder or different? Okay.
Exactly. Yeah. So what it was is I was so caught up in my head that I could not tell the difference between my head and my heart of making that choice. What I was closing off, I guess, my connection to my intuition, because I was so caught up in my head. I had so much fear based around, is this the right decision? Am I going to be, screwing up my life? Am I not going to make any money? Is this a bad financial decision? So I was so afraid. And so I could not tell the difference. So I kept asking him, like, what is, even with the signs, I was like, is this a sign? I don't know. And I kept getting all these different signs. Another one that popped up, I wanted to see javelinas, which javelina is I think it's like a wild boar or pig that you see in Sedona. So I'd never seen one before. And I thought, wouldn't it be cool to see? I really want to see a javelina while I'm here. I'm driving down the road one night. I think it was like third or fourth night I was there. And I have to stop the car because a whole herd of javelinas was crossing.
Oh, it's the best. That's the best. They didn't want you to miss it, Catherine.
They did not.
That's
I'm
right.
like, okay, I'm getting the signs. So there were massive signs. And prior to leaving, the first sign that kind of like started it all was when I was really doubting. This was at the very beginning when I was thinking about pivoting and I was really doubting it. The very first sign that I had gotten was a magpie. So magpie is like a native bird over here in Sydney, and it's black with a bit of white. And we've got this like sort of ledge by this big open window right by my desk. And so every now and then we'll get birds there. And I was in a really sort of like crossroads at the very beginning. It's the first time I was doubting, like, I don't think I should be doing this. And a magpie perched and started looking at me and just stood there and was just eyeing me down.
Wow.
And then about a month ago, and this is also really interesting, Monica, because in your book, you talk about your daughter and the feather. I was driving down the road and a feather, as I'm driving, one feather just floats down right in front of my car.
Wow.
And it reminded me of the magpie. And so
when you saw the magpie and the feather, because I know
started
you got your intuition, what was the feeling? Like what did you think those meant?
Leaning into my intuition that I knew all along.
Yep.
And so then last weekend, I was thinking about that feather, like literally thinking about the feather. I'm walking and I look down and there's a feather.
Oh, I love it. That makes me so happy.
So I'm hooked in now.
That's right.
I found the intuition, but it really started, like the opening of the intuition started with the book. And I'm curious, Monica, because when you were on on Elizabeth's podcast, you talked about how you wanted to go global. Was this the beginnings of that for you, the book?
It is, but let me go back a little bit to your story, because I think this would be really helpful for everybody. Is you really can't make a wrong decision because the universe will always course correct you. So if you went one way thinking this is the way you're supposed to be, and for some reason it's not, and it might not be for now or later or never, the universe will course correct you. Because its job, your spiritual team's job, is to keep you in alignment with what's good for you. So just for future reference, we all have fear. It's part of who we are. It's built in there. But just know, technically, you kind of can't make the wrong decision. If you just hone in on that intuition, it will lead you where it is that you need to be. And if we misinterpret something, it will always course correct us.
That's great because yes, I think, that is true. One of the first things in reading the book, when you're first calling out to have your spirit guides make their presence known. And then when you're asking for a sign of, should I do this or should I do that? you are in that headspace of, oh gosh, what if what if I don't recognize the sign properly? What if I make the wrong choice? What if yeah. So that's good to know.
So just keep that in your back pocket the next time you're trying to make a decision. Trust me, I've been there, done that, but it definitely does course correct. So just know that that's available for everybody. But back to your beautiful question globally, I was blessed to have clients globally. So that's one way that I have been able to serve. And then, of course, this book, Elizabeth's going to kill me, but there's also a second book kind of percolating for us.
Oh boy.
She's like,
Monica, tell Catherine how you heard the first book and how you're hearing our second one, because we sort of glossed over the team talking to you and like tapping on your shoulder. And I feel like not everyone knows how you get those messages. Like,
okay, book. Yeah. So just, for me, it might look a little bit, it might not, but the other side would constantly just be waking me up in the middle of the night to tell me I need to write a book. That feeling, that nagging feeling just kept coming up and up and up. And then when I would dismiss it, then it started coming in dreams. And then people would constantly come up to me and say, you should write a book. Have you thought about writing a book? I mean, it was just coming at me from every way possible. And so that's, when it won't let you go, that's when you really need, you need to do something about it. And so then that's when that came in.
Nagging feelings. Those nagging
the
feelings.
Nagging,
Doesn't have to be a book. Be about
that's
a person, can be about, I'm not supposed to go on this trip. I mean, there's so many.
Yes. Good point, Elizabeth.
You're so tuned into your intuition, but part of the reason we wrote this book was not, once you start working with the other side and you trust them in that process, you learn to trust yourself. You learn to trust your own intuition through working with them. And that's what we want so much for people, is to know that we have the answers inside of us already. As cliche as that sounds, it's true. So, okay. So yes, we are being asked to write a second book, which I'm already shaking my head about. Don't worry. I'm totally.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Yeah. I woke up one day and it was like, oh my God, there's another book. And it was just like, I sheepishly texted Elizabeth, and Elizabeth's like, oh my God. So they will come in and tell you when they're ready for it.
This was because do you think that that's going to be more global? Is that how we got here?
That, and then I also think I've always been told that there's some sort of film also that is going to be down the line that will be coming out as well. So I think that's also here for us to expand the message globally.
You heard it here first.
I love it.
Yes.
I'm seeing Reese Witherspoon in my head because I know she's an avid book reader.
I'm writing it down.
You and me both.
I'm also seeing a TED Talk for Monica.
Oh my goodness. Monica, I love that.
Peter Pan's a little bit. Just I want to tell you something that I don't know what this means yet. I'm going to Sedona in 2 weeks. Catherine.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
It's a magical place.
It's a magical place. But when you said that, I thought, okay, what is going to happen there? There's also a Sedona story in the book. From one of Monica's clients. So I don't know. You've just made me think about that. I'll let you know if anything happens.
Yeah. It is a very magical place. There was a night at the resort, the hotel that I was staying. They were doing a full moon ceremony. I was the only person that showed up. So I had my own ceremony with the healer that was there. She did like a healing session on me. She mentioned my voice, and she could sense that was my thing, my superpower. To hear that, I thought, she doesn't know me. How does that happen? Monica, how does that happen?
That's actually a really great question. So my team will talk to somebody else's team in order to deliver messages to myself and to you. So first of all, that you were the only one who showed up. I'm thinking in my head, yes, this was totally for her.
Yeah,
Yes.
totally.
Yeah.
And so your team spoke to her team.
Right.
And she was the conduit. And so she was able to deliver messages to you.
Wow.
And you do the same. Everybody here delivers messages to one another. I wish we would open up our ears and our eyes and really listen and see people as messengers, because everybody truly is a messenger.
So when we're leaning into our intuition and we speak from that place, that is us sharing messages or being the messenger in a way?
Yeah, it's us hearing the other side. So the hearing the other side sounds like it's us. It's our voice. And so mine sounds a little bit different, but typically it's our voice. And so we're just having a conversation with somebody. And have you ever had a conversation where you just kind of are talking to somebody and the conversation just goes on and it's you don't even notice the time?
Yeah.
That's when you know you're being a conduit for people. It's just, it comes through you. It's not something you have to think about or something, that you are forcing a conversation. It comes through you. And so, yes, we deliver messages. There's also something else that happens. Let's say you woke up that morning and you're like thinking, okay, what's 1 + 1? You cannot think of the answer. And you go to the Starbucks line and you're waiting to order your coffee, and there's somebody at a table next to you going, 1 + 1 = 2. That's also a messenger. So we can get messages from other people in the most random ways. We just have to be open and pay attention.
Right.
And I don't ever hesitate anymore if I come across a book or a movie or some fun fact or an article. If I think of someone who might want to read that, even if I don't know why, or watch it, or I just send it. I do it especially to Monica, but also to my close friends. And there's like a handful of them where we just sort of know that we are connected somehow, probably because we all sort of are on this wavelength and pay attention to our intuition. But I'll say, I don't know why I'm getting this, but I think it's for you. It happens all the time.
And it always is. It's always right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But your intuition too, Monica, tell me this is correct. Your intuition, Catherine, all of ours, it's also your higher self. It's your soul speaking to you. It's when you get out, like you said, it's like when you get out of your head. You're not, you can trust that voice as being yours as well, right?
When I mean voice, it sounds like your own voice.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same voice.
Saying we have intuitive hits for ourselves that are not always the other side speaking through us. That's us too.
That's
Our
true.
Intuition.
That's
your
true.
Own intuition.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because we're a soul. But it's funny how we go see intuitives and psychics and healers, even though 20 of our closest friends and family have told us we have an incredible voice, should do this with our lives. And then you go see a stranger in Sedona at a full moon ceremony. And then that's just like, okay, now I'm going to trust it. But
that's
need that because it does feel like a higher power. Because it is, and it does feel like, okay, there's no human emotion or bias because my mom's telling me I'm amazing getting in the way. It's like I am meant to be here and do this. I was put on this earth for a reason. And there's nothing more powerful, I think, than hearing it from that sort of third spiritual party.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Like you said, you're put on this world for a reason. And that's a big part of the book is that mission that everyone is born with this gift or this spiritual gift, right? Something that we are here, that we're meant to do.
Yes. And I hope we did a good job in the book, really emphasizing that doesn't mean that you're a brain surgeon. That doesn't mean you're a New York Times bestselling author. it's when you are living in alignment with your soul, and that could mean volunteering. That could mean just how you show up in the world. Your mission doesn't always have to be a career.
Very true.
It's what you signed up for. So that's how I think of it. And when you're out of alignment, you're not, you feel like you haven't reached your potential, you feel out of whack, unhappy, just not yourself. So while we've talked a lot about the signs, because that's the practice, that's how you start working with the other side and tapping into your own intuition. The reason for that is to help people get on track and to live out their mission, because until we're all doing that, we can't fully actualize our lives and support each other and, be a connected collective.
I have a question on that. Can your mission change or evolve over time?
The flavor of it can change. So typically, if you're a healer, you're a healer. That is what you're here to do. But you can heal either, let's say somebody starts off being a nurse, and so they're healing in that way. And then they decide, okay, they're done with the hours or the workload or whatever. And then they decide to become a Reiki master. And so they can heal that way. Then they decide to write a book about healing modalities. That could be another avenue. So the flavors can change, but you are here, as a healer or as a communicator, or, you are given the one gift, but you're allowed to choose however it is that you want to do it.
Oh, that's such a good way of looking at it, Monica.
Yes.
That's because in listening to the interview on the Healers podcast, you mention, so you're either a healer, a teacher, or a server, right?
Yeah, you're here to serve.
So you also mentioned communicator. Is that about being a teacher, or is that?
Yeah. So a communicator, you can be, a healer with the gift of communication. So then you can become a writer, a speaker, or anything like that. But you either fall into the category of healer, teacher, or you're here to serve. Those are the three main ones. Can they cross over? Absolutely. Can you have more than one? Absolutely. But typically one is kind of your North Star. And so some people are here to communicate. So you can write, you can even write music. That's healing. That's a healer. A healer can do that. Or, you can choose to only write books. It just, the flavor all depends on what brings you joy and how that really should be your biggest green light, is what brings you joy. And that's how you should serve your mission.
Monica, you were so good.
Oh, you're so sweet. Thank you.
I always thought, when I listened to that, I thought, oh, well, I'm a teacher. But no, actually listening to you explain that, I'm actually a healer.
Which is beautiful. And, you can do both. You can heal by teaching others A, B, and C. It's so beautiful on how we can work together. Whatever it is that you decide to do, just make sure you have that flavor of a healer in your work. Do you know anything about life path numbers?
No, the most recent thing I've looked into is my human design, but I don't.
Okay, which is also a beautiful tool as well.
Yeah.
So I would encourage people to take a look at what's called their life path number, and they can Google it, how to figure out their number. But our life path number gives us two bits of information. The first one is what it is that we're here to do, 100%. And then the second thing it tells us are soul growth lessons. We are here to learn from the minute we get here until the minute we cross over. We are learning. And so it tells us exactly what it is that we're here to learn. And so for Elizabeth and I, we just so happen to be what are called life path 7s. And 7s are here to teach spirituality to the masses. Wow. So if you take a look at your life path number, it will also give you hints as to what it is that you're here to do and how to best go about doing that.
Can I recommend a book on that?
Yes.
Please.
that we love. Monica introduced me to it. I've given away my copies so many times. It's called The Life You Were Born to Live, and it's by Dan Millman. It takes, I don't even want to call it numerology, but it takes that to another level. And where your strengths are, where your weaknesses are in those lessons, those soul lessons, that when you lean into those, when you conquer them, that is when you're really going to start to thrive. And he breaks it down by health and career and relationships, and like where you're the most confident, where you maybe need to build yourself up, etc. So, it's so good. I feel like that would just support you on this new like chapter, Catherine. I feel like it would be so validating for you. And
it's funny that you mentioned that, because I was listening to your podcast and you mentioned it, and I was actually Googling it, looking it up on Amazon before we started.
Very consistent about our favorite books. Yeah,
it will be ordered today.
Good.
It will be ordered today, but it is a sign for sure. It's just like you said, it's tools to confirm.
It's a tool. Yes.
Your mission. Yeah, which is great.
And the human design, I think for Monica and I, and I'm sure for you, it's really liberating to know, I do not need to try to be XYZ way in my work.
Yes.
This is not, it's, there's no like, I'm going to focus on all these things that I don't love to do. No, don't do that. I am a manifesting generator. So like, give me the big picture, the vision, I need a team with me to like actually make it happen. And I like go after things. Monica's, are you a generator?
I wait to be invited.
You wait.
I'm invited.
I was going to say, you're a you're a projector like me.
You're a projector.
Yeah.
So we have to balance that in each other too. But it's such a relief to do human design, life path work. Yeah. It's so fun. It's so fun.
It is so fun. This was so much fun too. It was so nice to speak to both of you, and
we're so grateful to you, Catherine, for this and for just taking such good care of our baby with this book.
It was my pleasure. And I could feel that it was a very special book, and I was very touched to be a part of it and, share information. In fact, when I was in Sedona, I had mentioned it to some of the mastermind people, and one downloaded it the first day and read it and started looking for signs. And then someone else had pre-ordered it on Audible. So
wow.
Yeah.
That's so sweet. Thank you.
It's my pleasure. And it's so wonderful to speak with you and hear your voices. And I really look forward to the second book. I can't wait for it to come out, and the movie and all
That's
that.
right.
Movie and the TED.
That's right. Oh, Lord.
Well, thank you so much. So if somebody wants to learn more about Chase You and more about the both of you, where can they find you or the book?
ChaseU.org has more about us, our newsletter, our social media, and links to purchase the book.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Monica and Elizabeth, for joining me on the podcast. And hey, if you're out there and you're ready to start unlocking the power in your voice and start amplifying your message and your mission, then I invite you to book a call with me. Head over to catherinebeck.com/amplify and we can get started. Thanks for tuning in today for a very special episode here on the podcast. And I look forward to seeing you back here next time on the Voice of Your Brand podcast.